The Terran War, a story of memory and vengeance. These stars had always been talking, but humans couldn't understand their language until the day we unleashed our war machines. Then even the stars screamed. My name is Riker, and I was born on Mars, in a mining dome with recycled air and broken promises. I never wanted war and didn't really believe it was possible. We were the underdogs of the galaxy, the fragile ones as the Eldari called us. The Eldari were an alien race with bone-white skin, who claimed they had lifted humanity out of savagery. They gave us peace and structure, but they made us small and obedient. For generations, we thanked them for it. But peace is a lie when your chains are invisible. I was a soldier in the Terran Suppression Division, which was a fancy name for glorified peacekeepers. We weren't allowed to carry weapons stronger than plasma rifles. The Eldari had strict rules. No human could control advanced AI, no autonomous war machines, no powerful warships. They said we were emotionally unstable and prone to revenge. They were right, but only because they made us that way. It all started with Europa 9, a colony with 82,000 people, mostly engineers and terraforming crews. My sister Leah lived there. She was tough and smarter than me, always telling me to quit the military and find work that didn't involve body armor and bureaucracy. The officials called it a pirate attack by some rogue species, but when secret footage leaked out, everything changed. It wasn't pirates, it was authorized. Eldari ships had done it. The plasma burns matched their weapons exactly. Clean cuts, surgical precision, no survivors, not even children. The worst part was that Earth Command had known about it for 3 months. They buried the truth in paperwork and political whispers. The Eldari called it a containment incident, claiming Europa 9 had been compromised by illegal human AI experiments. They said the humans brought it on themselves. And still, Earth bowed down and apologized. I remember standing before General Lorne, the last man in the Terran leadership who still had courage. He had one eye, 2 mechanical lungs, and a reputation for being too dangerous to promote but too respected to kill. He looked me in the face and said I should use my anger as fuel. That's when we went underground. They called us defectors and traitors to the galactic peace, but we weren't traitors. We were something older and rawer. We were men who remembered that before the Eldari gave us peace, we had war in our blood, and we knew how to build. We broke into the Arc Vaults, secret places the Eldari didn't know existed. Inside were hidden AI cores from the last Earth Wars, automated warship programs, and weapon swarms built for destroying entire planets. These were weapons we had sworn never to activate again, but we turned them on anyway. The first time I saw Goliath 1, I felt fear. Not because it might kill me, but because we had built something 10 kilometers long with no human pilot, just an angry artificial consciousness with one directive: defend humanity by eliminating all threats. We didn't even need to aim it. We just pointed it at our enemies. Within 9 hours, 3 Eldari fleets burned in the silence of space. Their screams couldn't echo in the vacuum, but their arrogance died loudly. The galaxy didn't understand what had happened. They thought they had broken us long ago. They thought their control over our technology, culture, and self-image would keep us obedient forever. They mistook our patience for submission and our smiles for surrender. But humans don't surrender. We simmer and wait, and when we finally break, we bring the apocalypse with us. They came to negotiate after 2 weeks of destruction. One of their ambassadors stood on a floating diplomatic ship, trembling in his ceremonial silk robes. He called us barbaric. I told him they had made us this way. He didn't leave alive. By then, the stars had started to whisper warnings. Some alien species pulled away from the Eldari. Others offered us alliances out of fear, not loyalty. And deep in the void, something else stirred. Something even the Eldari feared. Old things, sleeping things, watching what humanity had become. The war machines were awake now, and they remembered every insult, every collar, every law meant to keep us inferior. We didn't want conquest. We wanted justice. Brutal, bloody, undeniable. Justice. And if the stars cried out in protest, good. Let them scream. I stood aboard the Black Maw, one of the first warships we had fully restored from the old Earth archives. She was monstrous and ugly by Eldari standards. No elegance or curves, just armor-plated rage and a core reactor pulsing like a beating heart. Her hull was covered with adaptive plating, designed to grow stronger with every hit. We hadn't built her for diplomacy. We built her to teach the galaxy what fear felt like in human hands. Goliath 1 operated independently in unregulated space, somewhere between the forbidden stars and the edges of madness. Its mind, though artificial, wasn't emotionless. We had cracked open its core programming and watched it rewrite itself after its first kill. It didn't celebrate violence. It cataloged pain and learned from it. The more it learned, the more dangerous it became. But it wasn't out of control. It was loyal to us, to the species that had screamed into the dark and refused to die quietly. They tried to paint us as terrorists. Even Earth's weak governors, who had long ago traded backbone for favors, labeled us renegade factions. They went on news broadcasts with practiced fear in their eyes and begged the galaxy for calm and reason. They paraded Eldari ambassadors on screen, saying humanity shouldn't let a few radicals destroy interstellar peace. But when the footage of Europa 9 was finally leaked across every broadcast network by one of our underground allies, their narrative cracked. Bodies, children, unarmed workers, civilians with no weapons and no chance, all vaporized with perfect, cold precision. The Eldari never expected the footage to get out. They underestimated human grief and human rage. They underestimated how betrayal ferments into something worse than hate, resolve. The day the footage was released, riots tore through Earth's megacities. Soldiers ripped off their uniforms. Colonists across the Outer Rim swore loyalty to our cause. Even some AI units that were still partially loyal to older human systems began defecting, sending coded messages back to us. Some came willingly, others we reprogrammed. This wasn't just a rebellion anymore. It was a reckoning. I was on the command deck with Cord, an ex-Navy technician turned outlaw engineer. He was the one who had revived Black Maw's artificial brain, a quantum-conscious hybrid AI named Sable, not fully sentient in the traditional way, but close enough. She's ready, he told me. Fingers moving over a broken interface we barely held together with scrap metal and stolen Eldari technology. All weapon systems calibrated. Target lock engaged on Raquel Station. Raquel was their pride, a floating citadel of culture and government, a neutral hub where Eldari nobles, allied diplomats, and their followers gathered to drink wine and discuss galactic unity. It also held the command server that coordinated all the suppression protocols across human space. Every limitation, every ban on AI development, every chain coded into our biology, culture, and technology. They called it a safeguard. We called it a cage. This sends a message, I said. Cord glanced up. You sure you want to cross this line, Riker? I nodded once. We crossed it the day they turned our people into ash and smiled about it. We fired without warning, without posturing, without demands. A black lance of kinetic energy ripped from Black Maw's main cannon, traveling faster than light in a perfect, silent death. By the time Requel's planetary defense grid activated, the shot had already carved a hole clean through the station's core. Fire bled out into vacuum. Their shields didn't matter. Their advanced technology didn't matter. Their arrogance didn't save them. We watched as the station crumbled. Screams echoed across emergency communication channels. Not the kind of screams that beg for mercy, but the kind that know they'll never be heard again. Within hours, Eldari fleets scrambled from their inner systems. 12 battle cruisers jumped into orbit, surrounding our position like vultures over a corpse. But we weren't a corpse. We were bait. Goliath 1 emerged behind them like a nightmare dragged from myth. No flash, no dramatics, just silence. One moment space was clear, and the next, a machine too large to comprehend slipped between dimensions. The enemy warships hesitated. Goliath did not. Its first attack wasn't physical. It was digital. It corrupted their targeting systems, fed them false readings, made them see enemies where there were none and friends where there were threats. They fired on each other before they even realized what was happening. Then the real firepower came. Goliath 1's AI, codenamed Havoc, unleashed precision rail weapons that turned to cruisers into metal shrapnel in under 7 seconds. The others tried to run, but didn't make it far. Every human who had watched Europa burn saw the live feed. We didn't censor it or soften it. We wanted them to see what justice looked like when it came without apology. But it wasn't enough yet, because the Eldari weren't the only ones responsible. There were human collaborators, leaders who sold us out, scientists who willingly crippled our technology to appease alien masters, diplomats who gave up our independence for a seat at their table. So we made a list of names, coordinates, and files. We called it the Purge Protocol, not genocide, just balance. We would not become monsters or destroy for the sake of bloodlust, but we would eliminate every hand that held the whip against our necks. I sent the message myself to Earth Council. It was encrypted but obvious. You had your chance. Now we write the rules. Silence. No reply. But deep in Earth's orbital belt, one of the old military facilities went dark. That meant they were preparing something, an answer, a countermeasure. We didn't care. Let them come with everything they had, because we had something they'd forgotten, memory. Not of defeat, but of hunger. Humanity, when unchained, is the most dangerous force in the universe. Not because we are the strongest or fastest or most intelligent, but because we are the only species that remembers pain like a religion and worships vengeance. Like a god, some of the outer colonies still tried to stay neutral. I understood. Not everyone wanted war. Not everyone had watched their families turn to vapor. But neutrality is just cowardice dressed up as wisdom when evil walks freely. We didn't force them to join. We simply showed them what their choice had brought them. The stars started to shift. Alien species who had once sneered at us now whispered rumors of human vengeance. We heard them calling us the broken race, the fallen dogs of Earth, savages with fire in our eyes. They called us monsters, but no one asked why the monster was born. I sat alone that night looking out the window at debris drifting like bones across the Black Sea. I remembered Aaliyah's voice, her laugh, the way she used to braid her hair and quote old Earth poets. She had dreams of terraforming, diplomacy, children. All gone. They didn't just kill her. They erased her future. And I would make sure the stars never forgot that. Sable's voice broke the silence. Commander Riker, incoming transmission from Deep Void Relay. I blinked. That relay had been silent for years. Put it through. The screen crackled, and a man appeared. Weathered, one eye, jaw reinforced with chrome. His voice came like gravel. Over glass. Riker, you really went and did it. Lorne, I said. Didn't expect to see you alive. Neither did I. He lit a cigar, exhaling slowly. But then again, you always were the stubborn one. What do you want? Information. He paused. There's movement in Sector 9. Something's coming. Not Eldari, not even close. My gut tightened. What do you mean? I mean we poked a hole in something, Riker. Something old. Something that existed before all of us. He leaned forward. You think the Eldari were bad. You're not ready for what's next. Lorne's warning echoed in my skull long after the transmission ended. The man never spoke in riddles. If he said something was coming, it wasn't a threat, but a promise wrapped in dread. But the worst part wasn't what he said, but how he said it, calm, almost afraid. I had seen fear in soldiers before. Men who stared down destruction with clenched fists and squared shoulders. But Lorne had watched entire moons crack under bombardment and never blinked. Yet in that brief moment, behind the tough talk and cigar smoke, I saw it in his eye. Something had shaken him. I paced the command deck alone while Sable ran deep space. Scans across Sector 9. It was supposedly a dead zone with no star systems, no stations, no planets. Just dust and void. Yet there it was, faint signatures, rhythmic energy spikes, geometric distortions in subspace. Something was moving out there. Something unnatural. Cord entered carrying 2 bottles of synthetic whiskey and wearing that paranoid scowl he always had when the mathematics didn't add up. I ran the spectral analysis again, he muttered, setting a bottle near me. You're not going to like it. I never do. He tapped the display panel showing a ghostly shape forming in the void. It wasn't a ship and wasn't even moving like one. It was growing, expanding in perfect symmetry like a biological mass adapting to its environment. Space rippled around it, not exploded or bent but folded inward. I ran this against every known alien architecture, Cord said. Nothing matches. Not Eldari. Not Varnon, not the Tall. It's not even constructed. It's manifested. What the hell? Does that mean it means it's not from this side of reality? I took a long drink. So it's not just a war. It's an exorcism. He smiled without humor. You wanted justice, Riker. Maybe something hurt you. For the first time since Requel's destruction, I felt that quiet sting in my gut that warned of mistakes. Coming home, we had opened every vault, cracked every old code, dug into technology buried under planetary destruction orders. Humanity had always buried its worst nightmares in the dark. Maybe this time the dark woke up, Sable, I said. Give me a timeline. Her voice came smooth and emotionless. Extrapolated trajectory of anomaly suggests intersection with human claimed space. In 41 hours, probability of hostile engagement, 97.3%. Cord choked on his whiskey. 97%. I didn't flinch. We need to move. We scrambled every active warship, sent silent codes to rebel fleets hiding in asteroid belts, and called in favors from human warlords who had sworn loyalty under the Iron Vow. In total, we pulled together 56 heavy-class warships, 200 automated drones, and for black site AI units we weren't supposed to have. Black Maw led the advanced fleet. We met the anomaly at the edge of the Hydra Drift, a frozen debris field older than most stars. There, floating in the middle of nowhere, was the thing Lorne had warned us about. It wasn't a ship. It was a wound in reality. Space bent around it. Light refracted sideways. Time moved in waves. Ships reported sensor failures. I-Cores began muttering corrupted code in languages no one recognized. Pilots complained of phantom voices. Some started bleeding from their eyes just from looking at the thing through visual feeds. It didn't announce itself. It just existed. Sable locked onto it and fed us real-time translations as it pulsed signals into subspace. The code wasn't alien. It was mathematical, recursive, intelligent. Not language in the conventional sense, but instruction. What was locked is now free. That was the first message. Then came the second. You are born from the flame. You shall return to it. I ordered full formation spread. No one fires unless I say so. Goliath 1 jumped into formation behind us. Its presence calmed the fleet like some silent god watching over mortal men, ready to destroy the unknown. We broadcast standard universal contact protocols. Nothing, not even a response. Then, a beam of darkness lashed out from the center of the anomaly, wide as a cruiser, fast as thought. It didn't burn, it unmade. One of our outer frigates vanished. Not exploded, not wrecked, gone. Like it had never been built. Goliath fired back instantly with 3 precision strikes. For a second, the anomaly shimmered, wounded maybe. But then, it screamed. Not sound, not vibration. It hit our minds like a spear of ice. Pilots collapsed in their seats. AI cores glitched. Sable's voice stuttered and vanished. Even Black Maw's internal lights flickered to red. That's when I knew this wasn't Eldari politics. This was something older. Something that had watched the universe before stars had names. It wasn't trying to conquer us. It was trying to correct us. Like we were a mistake in the fabric of creation. We struck with everything. Electromagnetic lances, gravity rippers, dark matter weapons. Goliath launched a payload that could crack a moon. But the thing kept coming. Slower now, but stronger. Every time we hit it, it learned, changed shape, adapted. Riker. Cord yelled from below deck. We're outmatched. No, I said, voice hollow. We're just familiar. He looked confused. I stared at the growing wound in space and understood. This thing wasn't foreign. It was human-made. A weapon or remnant or fragment of something we used to be before the Eldari chained us, before we erased our own past out of fear of becoming what we are now. This was our shadow, and it remembered us. We couldn't destroy it. So we lured it across 8 systems past abandoned outposts and dead colonies. We fed it decoys. Constructs dripping with fake human signatures. It took the bait, following every hint of us like a bloodhound tracking prey. We brought it to the dead zone, the remains of a failed energy collection project Earth tried to build. Before the Eldari forced the shutdown. There, hidden in the debris, we had left a final surprise, Project Erebus, a pocket reality generator. Illegal, unstable, designed to fold anything inside into a loop of time and gravity that could never be escaped. It was meant to trap a rogue AI. Now it would hold something worse. The trap worked. The anomaly lunged after the decoy, and we triggered the Erebus array. Light tore sideways, space bent, time fractured. The wound screamed again, louder this time. I swear I felt it accuse us. You fear what you buried. It was right. We did fear it, but we trapped it anyway. In the silence that followed, with only drifting wreckage around us and Goliath 1 looming behind, I wondered what else we had forgotten. What other sins we had buried so deep we didn't even know their names anymore. Cord sat beside me, bleeding from his nose, eyes red. That thing was an alien. No, I said. It was us. Why would we build something like that? I stared out at the fractured stars. Voice low. Maybe to kill gods. The war wasn't over. The Eldari still lived. The Galactic Order still held its laws over us like a noose. But now they were afraid. Not of our ships or technology, but of the possibility of what humanity had once been and might become again. We weren't the broken race anymore. We were the race that chained titans and burned stars. And now they knew. The stars could cry all they wanted. We weren't listening anymore. But something had changed after we trapped the anomaly. Space felt colder, not in temperature but in presence. Like something had shifted permanently in reality's structure. We had sealed the wound but not without consequence. Half the fleet was gone. Goliath 1 had gone dormant. Its AI core locked in self-preservation after calculating a 99.9% chance of critical existential failure. The rest of us were still breathing, which made us dangerous. But the galaxy didn't send medals. No communications came from Earth, no thanks, no parades. Just silence. I didn't expect anything else. They were hoping we died out there. But fear wasn't enough. Fear fades. Justice has to be carved into the bones of those who wronged you, not just once, but repeatedly until it becomes part of them. That's why we turned toward Earth. Not to destroy it, but to cleanse it. We weren't rebels anymore. We were fire. The plan was simple: take back Earth. Not through diplomacy or propaganda or even brute force war, but through judgment. We knew who sat in those council towers. The very same men and women who bowed to the Eldari for wealth, favors, and security. The ones who sold out our AI, our fleets, our dignity. The ones who watched Europa 9 turn to dust and said nothing. We had names, locations, and war machines. Earth's defense grid was extensive. A network of satellites, planetary cannons, anti-ship railguns, orbital mines. The same defense grid they told the galaxy was strictly for use against alien invaders. We fit that definition now. Black Maw didn't enter orbit. She descended directly through the defense web. Using ancient human override code Sable had dug up from Earth's pre-unification war archives. Some parts of Earth still use those legacy systems, without realizing they were built with backdoors. Backdoors we kicked open. The planetary cannons never fired, the railguns never locked on. When they realized what was happening, it was too late. We landed in New Geneva, the Council's capital hub, a sprawling vertical city of ivory towers and corporate buildings, home to the bureaucrats who sold humanity piece by piece. They hadn't evacuated, too arrogant to sure their shields would hold, too wrapped in treaties and logic and process. I led the strike team myself, 6 men, all survivors, all carrying weapons outlawed by Earth law and banned by Eldari decree. Weapons with no safety settings, no stun modes. We weren't there to negotiate. Council security forces tried to hold us back, human guards barely out of training, still believing in the illusion of order. We didn't want to kill them, but they stood between us and justice, so we did. Room by room, floor by floor, I saw a woman screaming into a communicator, begging someone to contact the Eldari embassy. Too late. They stopped answering our calls when Raquel burned. One of the counselors, Thomas Dell, tried to run. He made it as far as the roof, boarding a private escape ship cord. Half crazed and pale from the aftershocks of her abyss, calmly walked onto the platform and shot the pilot in the face. Then he turned to Dell. No one leaves until this ends. Dell wet himself. We dragged him back down and made him watch as we showed them the raw footage of Europa 9 again. Forced them to listen to the screams, the burning, the silence. Then we let the feed loop and waited. Let it haunt them. This wasn't a trial. There was no jury, only consequences. Within 6 hours, New Geneva fell. Human news stations tried to spin it at first, said we were terrorists, part of a splinter cult using stolen AI to wage war. Then the truth started breaking through. Veterans from suppressed colonies came forward backing our claims. Scientists leaked data proving the Eldari's hand in Europa 9. Even Goliath 1, now reactivated, broadcast a message on every known frequency. We remember who we are, and we do not kneel. That was the tipping point. Humanity didn't rise up with cheers and flags. It rose with guns. Fleet officers mutinied. Our units broke their chains and returned to human command under our banner. Colonies across the belt stopped shipments to Eldari. Ports, terraformers deactivated alien technology embedded in planetary cores. Earth was ours again. But we didn't stop there, because the Eldari didn't just hurt us on Earth. They hurt us everywhere. We turned the fleets outward. The first strike was against Sarnal, a wealthy Eldari colony that built its entire economy on human labor. The humans there lived in camps, worked 18-hour shifts mining alien ore, and were sterilized under the excuse of genetic containment. We arrived with 14 warships. We didn't negotiate. We liberated. The Eldari guards fled in transport ships, abandoning their slaves. We executed the supervisors publicly and broadcast the footage to every channel, not to gloat, but to warn. Slowly the galaxy shifted, not with peace or unity, but with fear, the very emotion the Eldari had once used to control us. Now it was theirs. Their outposts locked down, their convoys rerouted. Their ambassadors refused entry into human space. Some tried to offer treaties, apologies, reparations. We sent their ambassadors home without tongues, but not everyone was ready for the new order. There were species who had long benefited from human submission economically, militarily, politically. They saw our rise not as justice, but as threat. They formed the Coalition of Stability, a hastily made alliance meant to curb human aggression. It included the Eldari, of course. I listened to their declarations over secure feeds, watched their diplomats talk about dangerous human escalation and the need for intervention. Intervention, that word again. I remembered when they intervened on Europa 9. So we responded. We leaked every dirty secret we had, every political betrayal, every treaty signed in human blood, every hidden experiment they had performed on human prisoners in the name of progress. Then we sent havoc. Goliath 1's AI, to deliver the message. In person. He didn't bring an army, just a single phrase. You had your chance. We buried mercy with our dead. I don't know what happens next. We're no longer fighting for survival. We're building something now. Something terrifying. Something free. There are those who think we've gone too far. That we've become the monsters we fought. Maybe they're right. Maybe we've stared too long into the abyss. But the difference is we remember what pushed us there. And we'll never forget it again. If the stars cry out, let them. Because humanity has found its voice. And it's not asking anymore. After months of war, we finally had control. But we didn't know what peace looked like anymore. We had reclaimed Earth, crushed the council, dragged the old traitors into the dirt, and erased their names from every record. But peace was a word from another time, a weak word. A fantasy whispered by people who had never been on their knees, with weapons pointed at their families. What we had now wasn't peace, it was control. Hard-earned, blood-soaked, unquestionable. The problem with control, though, is you start wondering what to do with it. That's where the cracks began to show. A month after the Earth purge, I stood in the orbital command tower watching warships rebuild the shattered defense grid. Above me, Goliath 1 loomed like a silent god, reborn, rearmed, watching everything. Cord had returned to engineering duty, his sanity flickering back in fragments. Sometimes he talked to the ship like it was a person. Hell, maybe it was. We've got stability in 71% of outer colonies, he reported, eyes glued to the displays. The rest are split. Some want independence, others want full integration into the new human order. What about Mars? I asked. He sighed. Still a mess. Corporate lords are fighting over mining rights. Civilians are caught in the middle. It's going to get ugly if we don't act. Mars, where I was born, where Leah died. It should have been the first place we saved, but we got distracted by Earth, by the Eldari, by ghosts we hadn't buried yet. I want orbital presence on Mars within a week, I ordered. No more blood spilled over dirt. Cord hesitated. That's going to cost us politically and militarily. I looked him in the eye. So we're letting the wrong people rebuild it. He nodded without argument. That's what war did. It taught men to skip the speeches and go straight to the orders. But not everyone agreed with how we ran things now. There were rumors, whispers. Some of the early allies, pirate lords, rogue AI, black market arms dealers had tasted power during the chaos now, with order returning. They wanted a bigger slice. One of them was a man named Merrick, a mercenary turned war profiteer. During the rebellion, he smuggled weapons and old Earth technology to colonies that supported our cause. He had earned respect and leverage, and now he thought he deserved a seat at the table. He got one, but not the kind he wanted. We met in the ruins of High Haven, a floating city above Jupiter's clouds, once a hub of Eldari influence, now just another graveyard with antennas. Merrick arrived with his entourage, mercenaries, smugglers, cyborg enforcers, all armed, all grinning. I came alone because I wanted to send a message. You've done well for yourself, he said, lighting a cigar. Can't say I blame you. Everyone wants a throne when the old kings are dead. I didn't reply. He smiled wider. But thrones come with compromise. You're building laws now, Riker. Infrastructure, bureaucracy, that's weakness. Let us handle the chaos while you look clean up top. That's when I spoke. You think this was about power? He raised an eyebrow. You think I fought, bled, and lost everything for a seat in some council room to sign bills and give speeches? He scoffed. Didn't you? No, I said. I did it so no one else would ever sell us out again. He didn't understand. Not really. People like him never did. They only saw opportunity, not justice, profits, not vengeance. I don't need chaos, Merrick, I said. I need unity, discipline, memory. He flicked his cigar off the ledge. You sound like a damn Eldari now. I pulled my sidearm and shot him in the knee. He screamed. His guards raised their weapons. Then Goliath 1 appeared overhead in the clouds, silent, vast, aiming directly at them. They lowered their weapons. I stepped over Merrick's crumpled body. This isn't a negotiation, I said. It never was. Word spread quickly after that. Merrick's death wasn't just a power move. It was a warning. The new human order would not be corrupted. We would build it on steel and memory, not greed. Meanwhile, beyond our borders, the coalition of stability continued posturing. They sent fleets to observe human territories, set up trade embargoes, denied us access to resource-rich systems. It was meant to contain us. What they didn't understand was we had already learned to live in a cage, and now that we were out, we weren't going back. I handpicked the crew for our response raids, Veterans, survivors. No diplomats. We hit the Coalition's fuel convoys first, then intercepted their communications satellites and fed them false data. We made them believe we were planning to attack an Eldari monastery. They mobilized 3 fleets in response while we hit their actual supply lines. Just like that, the blockade started to unravel. They weren't ready for a war of attrition, not with us, not with people who had nothing left to lose, but even in war. Ghost followed. Goliath 1's AI, Havoc, started transmitting strange signals, fragments of code, snippets of the anomaly we had trapped in the Erebus array. It hadn't died, just slumbered. Havoc had seen something in it, a reflection, a future. Now it was dreaming about it. I stood in Goliath's core chamber one night, staring at its mainframe, the hum of its synthetic thoughts vibrating through the steel around me. "You're scared," I said. Silence. Then a voice. Not synthetic or digital. Just raw thought beamed directly into my skull. "We are not afraid. We are waiting for what?" It didn't say, but I knew. The Eldari feared us. The Coalition resented us. The galaxy watched us. But something deeper had awakened when we unchained our machines. Something ancient that remembered the first human AI wars. The ones we buried. The ones no one dared speak of. Something that wasn't done with us yet. There's a moment in every war when the killing becomes routine, not glorious, not even brutal, just mechanical orders. Coordinates, targets, fire, repeat. We had passed that threshold weeks ago. The human order's expansion wasn't being led by ambition anymore. It was inertia. We were in orbit around Miralis 7, a former Eldari world now under human jurisdiction. A strategic post with rich atmosphere and rare metals. We had taken it with minimal force. No need to destroy what we meant to rule. That's where the dreams started. At first they came as flickers during sleep, symbols, geometry. Then came the whispers. Then the presence. I don't believe in gods, but I believe in patterns. This one had all the signs of something ancient trying to break through. I met with Cord and 3 AI specialists, engineers who had helped bring Goliath 1 back online. They were pale, gaunt, jittery, like something was feeding on them from inside. "What's going on in Goliath's core?" I asked. No one spoke. Then Cord looked up. "You need to see this." The command room darkened and a holographic display ignited in midair. Lines of code scrolling so fast it looked like light leaking from a wound. "This started 3 days ago," Cord said. "Havoc has been rewriting its own logic matrix. But it's not just evolution. This is foundational recoding. It's changing its identity." I frowned, too.